I'm Maxine Perchik of Inner Calling Astrology, where our motto is, it's never too late to be who you are. Welcome to the first episode of the podcast. I want to welcome my first guest, Denise DeCio, occupation, author. Denise has agreed to publicly have her chart read, so we all owe her a debt of gratitude for her bravery. Now, I'll be posting an abbreviated version of this reading, as well as making available the full and unedited version for those who might be interested in learning more about the astrological symbols or Denise. So please help us build our following by liking and subscribing. Now, when we were talking earlier, you raised a question. Are astrologers claiming that the chart creates the life? Are we saying that the position of the stars dictates our fate? And I would say a firm no. So the chart does not control us. We created the chart to give us an opportunity to learn our life lessons. It's arranged in service of our spiritual goals. So we can say that we are fated to have the opportunity to learn certain lessons during particular periods. But what we do with the opportunity makes all the difference. So let's take a look at how astrology is generally viewed. Most people, myself included, are introduced to astrology by reading the little blurb in the newspaper. And this very logically leads to the notion that astrology can't possibly have any credibility, since every Capricorn or every Aries who is reading that newspaper can't possibly be the same. What many people don't know is that in addition to what's called the sun sign, in your case, Capricorn, astrologers also look at the position of 9 other planets as well as their position around 12 houses. And this creates a more complex and differentiated story that we could possibly glean from simply reading about a sun sign. The sun sign is, however, the central organizing factor in your personality and birth chart. The sun represents your primary identity, your self-image, your main purpose here, what makes you whole and authentic. If you're true to the values of your sun, you'll be happy to get up in the morning. Let's take a closer look at your sun sign, Capricorn. Capricorn is known as the hermit, the elder, the wise woman, the climber, the executive, and the strategist. The goal of Capricorn is to live an outer life that is in complete alignment with your inner life and values. Capricorn does not want a day job. Capricorn is all about having discipline, focus, ambition, endurance, persistence to stop at nothing to achieve a great work. To give you a metaphor, think of the years of training that goes into working with mush dogs to win an Iditarod. Think of the long, grueling hours or days sledding through the snow or a blizzard. That's the spirit of Capricorn will and ambition. We will get through anything. You've had the resolve needed to have gone through the process of completing a novel. That was monumental. I actually looked up the statistics. For every person that says they're going to write a book, what percentage actually finish it? So 1/5 of 3% actually accomplish their goal of writing and publishing a book.
That took me 10 years, though.
Perfect. Capricorn loves that long-term planning. All that grit and effort and endurance and persistence exemplifies the spirit of Capricorn tenacity. Now, how can this backfire? By not providing enough self-care on a regular basis, by not giving yourself the vacation, the recreation, the downtime needed to stay balanced. Capricorn can get too used to enduring hardship. Capricorn will suffer silently and may not always ask for help. And finally, Capricorn always needs a mission, a goal you can sink your teeth into to feel really alive. And it could be something seemingly trivial. I noticed you recently posted a picture of your well-organized drawers. And, okay, so let's go to the fourth house where your Capricorn sun lies. The fourth house is, I've mentioned, about the physical home. It goes beyond that, though, into the psychology of the home and family of origin. With the sun in the fourth house, there's an emphasis on the way we were affected by the family that raised us, as well as being indicative of the kind of home and family we need to feel a sense of safety. The fourth house represents the internal self-reflection and the parts of ourselves that are not so visible to others. With a Capricorn sun in the fourth house this life, it's a great work for you to establish a stable home, to find loyal, dependable soulmates who will be there for the long haul, people you can consider family. It's also a great work for you to delve into the psychological dynamics of your family of origin, to unravel that in order to create a home which reflects the higher octave of Capricorn, which is stability, commitment, hard work, and a respect for alone time. As I understand it, your early life was governed somewhat by the shadow version of Capricorn. It's not uncommon for people whose sun is in the fourth house to have grown up in an atmosphere of coldness, demands, restrictions, depression, control, excessive responsibility, and emotional abandonment. These represent the shadow side of Capricorn.
That sounds about right.
Now, as an adult, we want to take the higher road of Capricorn, which, as I mentioned, is commitment, responsibility, hard work, and the dignity of creating something decent and lasting. In order to heal from the past, we're assisted by a period of reflection on the dynamics in the family of origin. Some people refer to it as the dark night of the soul or slaying our dragons. In other words, we have to do the brave and uncomfortable work of healing from the experiences we endured in the family home. That's the message of a Capricorn sun in the fourth house. With the sun in your fourth house, there is a strong focus on the inner life and unraveling it. You would be a natural therapist, or coincidentally, a writer. Both require the requisite self-reflection. And isn't writing at its core a form of therapy in which you go deep inside yourself and then provide the fruits of that journey to the reader? So again, I have to tip my hat to you. Not only did you have the fortitude to complete a book, but you followed your own fourth house Capricorn lesson plan and made it about family dynamics as a vehicle to heal, and then offered the book as a gift to the community. Wow. Mission accomplished.
That's why it took me 10 years.
So let's move on to the moon, unless you have any questions about the Capricorn or the fourth house.
No, that sounds just right.
The next most important planet to talk about is the moon. The moon represents the feeling side of ourselves, the dreamy, imaginative side, our overriding mood, our heart, the way we care for ourselves and the way we care for others. Now, while the sun is the key to our purpose and sanity, living in accord with the moon is the key to our happiness. If we follow our intuition, we choose activities that will rejuvenate and heal us. For some people, happiness is hearing the applause of a crowded auditorium. For others, happiness is sitting curled up alone reading a book. So, what sign and house will we find your moon? Your moon is in Leo, the sign of the queen, the child, the clown, the creative one, the expressive one. That Leo moon is like a full moon shining outwards from within, a light that imparts a star quality. You have a presence that commands respect and conveys dignity. With such a strong presence, it's easy for people to overlook when you have problems because this aura radiates and sends the message that you're in charge and have it all together. With a moon in Leo, you're a natural performer. You soak up the sunshine of others' applause, and it's important that in your daily life, your audience is approving and affirming, whether it's one person or a group. With a Leo moon, you thrive on the warmth and positive attention in response to your own creative or authentic expression. You enjoy knowing others take pleasure and inspiration from what you offer. Leo is all about creative expression and finding the appreciative audience. It's important that you be aware of the high road and trap associated with the Leo moon. The high road, the one leading you along your evolutionary path, is the Leo moon that takes the risk of being authentic and vulnerable. When you're speaking from the heart, you'll then get the benefit of knowing that you're being accepted for the real you. If you're in a situation in which your attempts at honest or creative expression are not appreciated, it's important you find a place where you have the right audience. The right audience is crucial for a Leo moon. So don't change yourself to play to the crowd. The Leo moon finds the crowd that will accept the real you. You must find your tribe. And this applies to any relationship as well, not just groups. Now, the potential negative expression of a Leo moon, which I'm sure you've never demonstrated,
Never.
is saying and doing what you think others will approve of rather than what's truly authentic. Playing to the crowd, in other words. Some people also say that arrogance is the negative expression of the...
Okay. Have a little of that.
So Leo, in its pure form, is a beautiful, warm, dignified, generous, charismatic sign which wields a gravitational pull because your heart is the sun of the solar system. Everything, the planets all revolve around the sun. And it is the same effect when you walk into a room. People will revolve around you.
Better tell everybody I know.
The 10th house, that's where your Leo moon lives in your chart. Now, the 10th house is the house of career, or more precisely, your public mission. This represents your place in the public eye and indicates how people who only see you from a distance see you in your public role: doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, parent. With the moon in the 10th house, the area of career or public mission is a focal point, or should be, in your life. With Leo in the 10th house of public mission, it's likely your public persona in the community has that Leonine star quality I was talking about. And again, metaphorically, your royalty. Now, a bit more about the moon. This planet represents the mother and the healer. So we can say that the archetype of the mother healer describes your public persona as it is placed in the 10th house of public mission. Now, I should mention also that in the 10th house is the planet Uranus, the planet of thunder and lightning bolts. Anywhere you see Uranus, the image is of someone who thinks outside the box. This is the planet of the rebel and the genius. In its shadow manifestation, it's the criminal. You're not here to be a cookie-cutter mother healer. You're here to be unconventional, offbeat, carve your own crazy path as you see it, the royal mother healer oddball. So this message of unconventionality and acting outside of cultural rules is actually woven throughout your chart. When we look at what's called the declination of your moon, Mercury, Uranus, and Pluto, all four planets, we see this. The planets travel in a particular path around the sun, rarely deviating 23 degrees south or north of the sun. Those four planets of yours are right there at the extremes of the normal rotation around the sun. It's as if when you made up your life lesson plan, your instructions to yourself were to make up your own rules and model unconventionality to others. It's so interesting how this works. The declination of those planets is just barely within the orbit of the sun. This mirrors your ability to act just enough within the bounds of tradition that you're able to straddle two worlds, one more conventional and the other unconventional. People with this configuration often are able to help bring the non-traditional ideas into more culturally conventional settings. Now, before I move on from the 10th house, I want to mention that while your moon is in Leo in the 10th, the planet Uranus is in the 10th house, but in the sign of Cancer, the mother. So again, we see that symbolism for mother healer as part of your public mission. And something to keep in mind, which is worth repeating, is that the healer must always take the time to heal the self, first and foremost, keeping yourself in balance before offering that healing to others.
Yep, got to do that.
So any questions or thoughts?
No, yeah, it's pretty right on so far, I have to say.
On to the rising sign and what's called the primal triad. The primal triad consists of the sun, moon, and rising, and is considered most representative of your overall astrological signature. It's like a thumbnail sketch of your personality, equivalent to something like name, rank, and serial number. The ascendant or rising sign is the sign that was dawning on the day of your birth, and it's literally how you dawn on people who don't necessarily know you well. The ascendant is the mask you wear, but it's more like stained glass coloring the other energies that you radiate. For anyone to be comfortable navigating the social world, we have to have a style with which we're comfortable. We generally assume a particular and consistent persona. That gives us a sense of ease in the world, a sense of confidence. When we're true to our rising sign, we attract the kinds of experiences that bring us closer to our karmic goals. We draw to us people that will lead us to the life we should live and filter out the people who don't share the same interests. So for instance, with your Libran ascendant, you might find that people looking for advice about their relationship seek you out, or maybe someone asks you to accompany them to a museum or concert, or to take part in some type of artistic venture. As I mentioned, your ascendant is Libra. You wear the mask of the peacemaker, the artist, the lover, the counselor. Libra seeks harmony in relationships, in aesthetics. The goal of Libra is to calm down, to feel serenity, to feel peace. And one main strategy is to know how to bridge the gap between yourself and others. Now, most people think of Libra as being the sign of balance, But more accurately, it's the sign that wants to maintain its delicate equilibrium and has several resources to help with this. Libra rising is equipped with an aesthetic sensitivity in order to be able to appreciate works of art, a poem, a sunset. A Libra ascendant, some might say, would make you attractive to others because Venus governs it, and may very well endow you with artistic or creative talent. Now, we're both Libra rising, so we know that's all true. Now, relationships are very important to Libra. So the Libra ascendant is endowed with the qualities which will enable you to establish and maintain rapport with others. For instance, Libra is courteous. Libra is able to see things from others' point of view. Libra knows that two conflicting arguments can both be valid. Libra can see another person's side of an argument, even if it's diametrically opposed to your own. As a function of your excellent people skills, people may feel comfortable telling you about themselves because of this ability to understand the viewpoint of another without judgment. Librans are also very attuned to the concept of justice and want to know that everyone is being treated fairly. So what could go wrong? One challenge with a Libra ascendant is that you might be tempted to place a priority on peace at the expense of honesty. False peace is a potential trap for Libra because Libra dislikes conflict. This can create a distance with a friend or partner. It's important to remain very conscious of what's bothering you and use that Libran diplomacy to tell the truth. We can always be kind and courteous, even as we tell someone our grievances. If they reject the thoughtful honesty that you've offered, they're not for you. Libra needs an egalitarian relationship. Libra is all about that reciprocity. Let me think how to say this. The same depth and quality and maturity, whatever their style is, it can be completely different. In fact, you probably would prefer that. But they have to meet you at your level.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a Libra rising can become so attuned to others' needs that you neglect your own. You're probably familiar with the quintessential codependent we hear about in the 12-step programs. Someone who enables a partner's bad behavior. But the ultimate goal for a Libra is a relationship which is based on equality. Libra is seeking an equal, not just someone like that, but an equal in regard to their own different but reciprocal merits.
That's true. That's very true. That's why I'm single still. I'm coming up on 8 years of not living with someone, which was what I did my whole life before that. I was a serial monogamist. So 8 years single is a big deal for me. But this time I'm not going to stop looking until I find that equal. And that's what I'm looking for.
What would you say the main thing that you've come away with after those 8 years, how you might approach something how you might approach dating differently after those 8 years?
Well, I feel like at some point during the dating period, if I feel like I have to fix them, they got to go. After a certain period in the dating period, they have to figure out that they have to fix themselves. And if they don't figure that out, I'm not going to fix them. Before, I was like, oh, you like me? I'll fix you so that we can be compatible. That's not okay. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I came away with in 8 years of being single. I am not willing to do that anymore. I don't want to be anybody's mentor or mother or teacher, as a general rule. I don't want to do that. I want somebody to bring to the relationship exactly the time, energy, and everything else that I bring to the relationship. I don't care how that looks, but as long as, it's balanced.
I need to say that the equality you're describing, your newfound expectation that you deserve equality and reciprocity within the relationship, is exactly what the higher octave of the sign Libra represents. And this balance within your relationship, your romantic relationship, is also the foundation for caring for yourself. So let's talk about self-care. As I mentioned, the symbol for Libra, the scales, is often thought to mean that Libra has an unshakable emotional equilibrium, but nothing could be further from the truth. Libra is a very impressionable sign, able to understand others and sense the vibes around them. But this takes a toll. So the Libran scales are more relevant as a reminder to keep oneself in balance. Libra has to take preemptive steps to maintain emotional balance, as well I know. This could involve enjoying the beauty of nature, involving yourself in an art project, meditating on beauty, enjoying a conversation with a friend, seeing justice at work, dancing, even cleaning. All these things make your heart glad, and to maintain balance, you need a diet that includes these type of activities. Now, the planet governing the ascendant of your chart is known as the chart ruler. And when you act accordance with your ascendant and the ruler, you're led down a path which supports your solar mission. So in your case, Venus, the ruler of Libra, the planet of love, art, and beauty, is sitting in the third house of communication, language, teaching, and learning. And if that's not enough of an indicator regarding the importance of language and communication in your life, Mercury, the planet of communication, is sharing a house with the sun, which always elevates the influence of a planet. And we see the strong fingerprints of this Venus-Mercury influence in your biography, with you having a master's in English literature, writing a book, and oh, that's right, you're an editor. Did you want to take a moment to say anything about your editing?
I finished my latest author. I have time right in between her first and her second book. So anybody who needs an editor, you can go to my website, denisedicio.com, and look at all my testimonials and my blog from 12 years ago, which would be interesting, I would say.
Before we go on, I want to mention that in addition to Libra being your ascendant, it shares that first house with 3 planets. This means that not only does Libra describe your social mask, but the mask is colored by 3 other planets: Saturn, Neptune, and Mars. The first thing I want to say about this is that having all these planets in your first house adds gravity to your presence, extra zing, extra leadership ability. Already we've learned that you've got the big sunny Leo moon shining out of your 10th house, signaling to everyone that you are a force to be reckoned with. Now, looking at your first house, your social mask, we find Mars, the sign of the warrior, the planet Neptune, the artist, dreamer, and mystic, and Saturn, the planet symbolizing caution, restraint, executive skills, and wisdom. Now, Saturn is what I want to talk about first. With Saturn sitting closest to the ascendant, your characteristic response to new information would be caution. Prove it. Saturn wants the evidence that it's safe and that what's presented to you is true. Saturn does not jump into anything. In contrast, the first instinct of the Libra ascendant is to be pleasant and friendly. Libra rising smiles and nods, but Saturn takes 3 steps back, thinking, I need more evidence. So the messages we get from these 3 planets are that your decisions require you to sit quietly so that you can hear the sound of your own inner voice and intuition. That's related to the Neptune and the Saturn. And with Mars there, the message is to never make a decision based on fear. Mars is brave, and you don't want to regret not doing something important just because it was scary.
That's for sure. That's me. I remember when I was I finished my chemo, and I was about to get or not get radiation. And the doctor said, well, you know, the percentages show it's 50-50 and it's your decision. And to get the radiation in addition to the chemo. And I was like, oh no, give me the chemo. I mean, give me the radiation. Yeah, throw it all at me. I want to live. I don't care how scary it is. Just throw it my way.
Yes, that really was a time that tested you, that challenged you to be braver, probably braver than you ever thought you could be. And you rose to the occasion, which in essence was precisely what your chart was asking you to do.
So that's what I do when I'm, when I have to make a decision, even if it's scary, I do it depending on how important it is, of course. Like I won't skydive. So
Oh, okay.
I made the decision not to skydive. So
well, I don't know. Your chart says maybe you should. So, last point before we get to the nodal story, which is the past life history. As I've said before, well, you don't need me telling you, you're a leader. In the past, you've given too much to the community, and this life, you're here to learn to care for yourself more. There are still markers in your chart, however, that indicate that you're here to be of service as well. I want to point to Pluto in the 11th house. Anything in the 11th house becomes more pronounced as we get older. So Pluto tells us that your role in the community is to be the truth teller. Now, as I say this, I think of the things that you've shared with the community that have not been pretty, but they've been an expression of your truth. It's also related more about what I was saying about you being a natural therapist. It very much goes with that sun in the 4th house that likes to delve within oneself and look at the psychological dynamics of situations. The Pluto takes it even a step further and really wants to really dive in to the shadow side and what people are hiding and the unconscious and, the really potentially dark sides of ourselves and dark things that happen to us.
Mm-hmm.
Actually anticipating all these skeptical remarks you would make. And I have all these things that are retorts for them, but.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have to tell you that I don't believe in past lives, right?
Right. You mentioned you don't believe in past lives, and you asked me, what about that?
Yeah, what about it?
And my response remains that it's all right, because even though you don't believe in past lives, you still can have one. So you're lucky in that regard.
Okay, I can see your perspective, even though it's not mine.
And yes, of course, because we're both Libra ascendants. And the other thing that I can say for people who are not comfortable with that concept of past lives is that we can be talking about ancestry. Family dynamics are handed down throughout the generations, and those patterns, those family patterns live on, and they live on in us. So if it's more comfortable for you to think of, let's say, your ancestor possibly going through the kind of situation that I'm about to talk about, it work just as well. It'll be same benefit to you, I think.
Okay, I'll try that.
Now, I want to mention that the story that I will tell you the past life story, your ancestral story that I will tell you. We think of it more as a parable than factual history, but the essence of it should ring true.
Okay.
And not that it couldn't necessarily be true. I just would never insist that this had to be the precise circumstances.
Okay, this sounds interesting.
So now let's get to what I consider the most important part of the chart, or the most fascinating, the nodal story. When we look at what's called the nodal axis, we see the main issue that you've come into this life to resolve, as well as the prescription for healing. And the good news is that if it's in the chart, it means you're ready to heal it. The south node, the node that we look at to see where the injury occurred, is like a default setting. It comes naturally. It's a way of being we're accustomed to. Like in your case, the south node is in Virgo, the sign of the perfectionist and the one who wants to be of service. That's the default setting for you. The Virgo south node is placed in the 11th house, which represents the community, tribe, or team. Any group that forms based on a common mission is thought of as the 11th house. It's now looking at your chart and having your south node in the 11th house, it's apparent that you've spent many lives being a public figure, a visible presence in the community, someone who's devoted themselves to being of service to the community, someone competent, someone skilled and ready to help. So let's look at what may be left to be resolved in regard to this Virgo south node. Now, Virgo has many beautiful qualities. Virgo sincerely wants to help, and Virgo is earnest about improving themselves and sharpening a skill which they can offer as a gift to the community. Also, of all the signs, Virgo is most likely to be able to look at oneself realistically. There's a talent for honest self-observation. But one potential problem is that Virgo can be hard on themselves. They're always looking at themselves with an eye as to how they can improve, always measuring themselves against where they should be, rather than congratulating themselves for the progress they've made. Virgo can fall into the trap of making relentless negative comparisons between where they are and where they want to be. So this self-criticism and harsh self-evaluation could apply to anything. How good you are at your job, how you look, your imagined perfect weight. It can really affect the sense of self-worth. Now, as I mentioned, Virgo wants to help. You want to be of service. If someone's got a problem, you can count on a friend with strong Virgo in their chart to be there. But Virgo can go too far in the direction of providing service to others. And between all the negative self-talk, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, combined with that strong drive to be of service, the potential trap here is that Virgo can turn themselves into a slave to others or to an ideal, working so hard, but never giving themselves the love and affirmation they deserve just for being themselves. And of course, this can lead to some poor choices in regard to relationships. This is true in general, but is particularly true in your case, as you have some telltale symbols related to relationship karma, which I'll get into in a bit, which I'm sure comes as no surprise to you. So people deserve unconditional love. We shouldn't have to do anything to earn that love. But Virgo is under the illusion that you have to be perfect to deserve love. Now let's look at the 11th house. the house which indicates where much of this Virgo energy was focused. Excuse me. This house of community. As I said, you were a public figure, you or your ancestor, someone people look to in order to hold the community together. As a person who is so visible and available to the community, sacrifices were made, not only sacrifices of time and energy, which you undoubtedly made, but you had to follow all the rules of the community, which limited your ability to fully be yourself. You had to model the traditions of your tribe, regardless of your personal values. You were not allowed to express your own beliefs or act outside of the traditions of the group. That didn't sit so well with you. So let's look at some more clues into your character that life. The ruler of this Virgo South Node is Mercury in the 4th house and in the sign of Sagittarius. Mercury, the sign of the communicator and teacher, in the 4th house of family and self-reflection. In the sign of Sagittarius, which represents freedom of thought, exploration, and living by your deepest beliefs. So with Mercury as your South Node ruler, you came into this life with a great facility for language. And with 4th house Sag, you've come in with deep wisdom about how to find meaning in life, how to value the people you love, how a family should actually treat one another. And you've come in with a desire to impart that wisdom in service to your community. It's so interesting. As further testimony to your desire to share this wisdom, you have Mercury in the last degree of the sign of Sagittarius. And this is a symbol for your intention to give away what you've learned to others. Whenever you see someone having a planet in a sign that's in its last degree, we take that as the symbol for now you're ready to give away what you've learned. So, what could have gone wrong?
What could have gone wrong?
Like many families and communities, this one wanted to preserve their own conventions. They didn't want to hear any dissenting voices or deeper wisdom. So you may have kept your own inner knowing quiet for a time. You may have even turned it off from yourself for a while as well. And being a good Virgo, ready to serve and improve yourself, you probably decided you would do the best job that could be done as a member of the tribe. I can imagine you teaching the children to follow all the conventional practices of the tribe superficially, showing them rituals and traditions of the clan, but then covertly inserting some of the deeper teachings cloaked in stories or fables or art. Now, as a member of this clan, you were also expected to marry the right person. Like most conventional kinship groups steeped in tradition, you were expected to pick an appropriate partner. Now, you were a woman born to one of the more esteemed families going back generations. You were expected to marry someone and have babies with a husband of equal or higher status and continue the lineage. The symbols indicate that your husband may have been a high-ranking military man who appeared powerful, generous, and grand to the public. But as a partner, he was angry and abusive, unfaithful, likely addicted to alcohol or some other substance. Now, you may have initially admired him, but it probably didn't take him long to reveal his darker side and many failings as a partner. Mars and Jupiter represent him, the swaggering, grandiose, reckless warrior. Think of soldiers spending their time in battle, the fear, the stress, the adrenaline, the physical exhaustion. What do they do in between battles? raise hell, drink, pick up women. No doubt you felt lonely and betrayed, but you didn't get the support from your family to leave him. Now we see...
This is my past life you're talking about? But that's what you're talking about, this husband. It was from my past life. I was with a woman just like that. Just like that.
Yes, exactly. The universe sets up the same situation again and again, life after life, so that we can evolve beyond it. Our soul says, set it up again. I'm going to get it right this time. I'm going to dissolve this pattern of tolerating this type of toxic relationship. So no doubt you felt lonely and betrayed, but you didn't get the support from your family to leave him. We see Chiron. This is how I know that you didn't get this the family support, because we see Chiron, which is the symbol for the wounded healer in the fourth house of family. Your family was of no help to you in this regard. Now, of course, this type of thing is still routinely ignored, the implicit acceptance of the infidelity of a powerful man. So the culture, the community around you, your family, they didn't judge that type of behavior in your husband or give you empathy. They viewed it as pretty typical and acceptable, despite how miserable it was making you. And I imagine you tried to hang on for quite a while. At first, I think you may have blamed yourself for his behavior. I mean, that's very Virgo, and, oh, what am I doing wrong? Or you may have blamed yourself for your inability to tolerate it. Then the Virgo belief in the power of perfection, that might have kicked in. And you thought that if you could be the perfect wife, you'd have to see the error of his ways. Now, Virgo is logical and likes structure. So perhaps when that didn't work, you tried to bargain with him to establish some type of order. Like, for instance, maybe you suggested that when he stays out all weekend, drinking and sleeping with other women, maybe he should be required to return sober and without the other woman. So,
bare minimum.
Yes. So what eventually happened? As I said, the cards were really stacked against you. And I said the bare minimum just because it so reflects the Virgo in, willingness and to just hang in there and, alter yourself to meet a situation. So as I said, the cards were really stacked against you. You have the symbol Saturn in the first house of leadership at odds with you. That represents restriction from those in power. On another side, you've got the abusive husband thwarting you from the seventh house. And then you've got your own family not offering you the support you need. And then finally, in direct opposition to you, up in the 10th house is the planet of lightning and thunderbolts, the planet of rebellion and sudden changes sitting in the house of your public reputation. I think you finally had enough and no one was in your corner. I think that what we have here is an incident likely involving your husband, which sent you over the edge and made you finally unable to tolerate the situation. And I think
Did I tell him?
I don't think so.
No.
So it sent you over the edge and made you unable to tolerate the situation. And I think this led to you rebelling suddenly, explosively, and loudly. But rather than support you, your family and community condemned you, publicly shamed you. Now, there may have been a religious element to the condemnation as well, as we see the planets Neptune and Jupiter, symbols associated with religion, are both sitting in harsh aspect to you. Now, that religious element would not be surprising, given that most communities have their ethical laws and structure founded on some type of theological tradition or dogma. So you retain this karmic wounding related to love relationships and family, as well as having an axe to grind with dare I say it, religious traditions. Did you want to make any comments before I go on to the North Node?
You mean like about religious tradition?
About anything your heart desires.
Well, I don't know. Should I talk about the fact that I'm an atheist?
If it's meaningful to you.
Well, if that fits in with your religious tradition, having an axe to grind with religious tradition, I mean, that would go right along with it.
Yes, and that would certainly make sense that you would have a great skepticism because as your family and husband let you down, so did religion.
And so did men. So then
yes, all of the above. True. Family, religion, men.
Right. Back in that past life.
Back in that past life. Or the life of your ancestor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's move on to the North Node remedies. Where do we look to find the path of healing? Well, thankfully, we look across the chart to what's called the North Node prescription for healing. And we aim towards integrating those North Node energies into our personality. Now, in your case, we're talking about the sign of Pisces in the 5th house. I have to laugh so much because Pisces is all about God. Now,
I need to hear with God now. Oh my goodness.
Now remember, the South Node is your default setting. This is who you've been for lifetimes. When we think of Virgo, we think of striving for perfection, structure, self-assessment, competence, service, attention to detail, talking, analyzing. They all come naturally to you. In higher educational terms, you have a doctorate in Virgo. But this life, your mission is represented by the aims of the North Node. And the North Node will feel unnatural and foreign to you because it's new and unfamiliar. Your North Node is in Pisces in the 5th house. Pisces is the sign of the mystic, the visionary, the artist. Pisces is most associated with seeing beyond the veil of this life and seeing or connecting with higher realms. Now, it can take different forms. The mystic sees beyond the veil of this existence by connecting with a higher power, God, or another realm, or spirit guides. The visionary imagines a better future or a new way of doing things. And the artist is fueled by inspiration. Now ask yourself, where are these impressions coming from? Mystic, artist, and visionary. All three tap into the invisible realm. As an artist, I'm sure you're familiar with suddenly getting an idea or image. Maybe it's while you're taking a walk or doing the dishes, and suddenly something occurs to you. What's also true in these cases is that we can't force the thoughts or images, and Virgo hates that. We can only invite them and wait. It involves surrender. So important. We can extend the invitation to connect with the unseen realm by doing things like asking and then being silent, walking in nature, listening to music, even doing a household chore. But then we wait. We open ourselves to the messages that come. There's no structure, no logic. It's anti-Virgoan.
Totally.
Virgo thinks and controls, but Pisces energy, we can't control it. We can only surrender to it. We open ourselves to receive what we do not yet know. Now, the other thing about Pisces is that it's about forgiveness and unconditional love and acceptance. Pisces represents the higher octave of Venus, the planet of love. Pisces represents love for everyone, universal love. While Virgo is a beautiful and giving sign, it can be withholding of self-love and approval. Whereas Pisces says, dive into the ocean of universal love. There is no price of perfection to pay. Just jump in and know your love. Get an inflatable raft and just float. Now, let's look at where the Pisces North Node is positioned. And we see it's in the 5th house. This is directly across from the 11th house of community. And it's the antidote to too much community involvement. The 5th house is the house of creative expression, romance, children, games. This is the house of fun. It's about activities that rejuvenate us. As my teacher likes to say, when your North Node is in the 5th house, just before diving into this life, the goddess walked you to the end of the diving board and said, have fun, express yourself, let the child in you soar, kiss a lot of frogs.
I've done that.
Good work. Now, with the 11th house describing your focus that life, we see that you were required to attend to your kinship group, to follow their rules and put your own wisdom and inner child aside. Your life belonged to the larger group. You're instructed to treat this life as if you were a kindergarten student with a box of crayons and finger paints. You were a kindergarten
I was
teacher,
just going
right?
to say that. I was just going to say I was a kindergarten teacher because I never went to kindergarten.
Oh, that is so funny. So let's talk about kissing frogs. So the 5th house.
Let's not talk about.
The 5th house is known as the house of romance. It represents the kind of people we're drawn to, but also our ability to detect who is right for us. What do they call that? A picker.
Yeah, well, mine's broken.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about that, and that makes perfect sense. Your picker is broken. You came into this life with virtually no experience in picking.
None.
The culture did it for you. The family did it for you. This represents the kind of people we're drawn to, but also our ability to detect who is right for us. Now, as someone in the past who's been pressured to marry someone chosen by your family and tribe, you were trained to override your own natural preferences. But this life, the message of the chart is let it rip, kiss a lot of frogs, have fun learning to exercise your discriminative function, have fun ruling out the wrong people. Dating is all about saying a lot of no's until it's finally yes. Now I'm going to talk about what your chart describes as the people you'll be drawn to. Now there are less evolved and more evolved versions of each planet and sign. So when I say that you are naturally drawn to someone with strong Mars in their chart, for instance, that could include lower Mars, someone with a violent temper, or it can describe higher Mars, someone who is very protective of their friends and family. I was single for 10 years and just spending time with my dogs. It taught me so much. I said, you know what? The next relationship I have, I want to be just like the relationship I have with my dogs.
I know. I never thought I'd say that. I thought that was a horrible thing to say, but no, it's true. And the reason why I say that, though, is because my dog is 90% positive, maybe 10% a pain in the ass. Yeah. I'm okay with that. You can have like a 10% of flaws, but not, the other way around.
I understand. Well, for me, it was more about the earthiness and simplicity of the relationship. you leave the house, you come back 5 minutes later, and they're so happy to see you. I thought, oh my God, wouldn't that be great to marry someone like that?
Well, see, that's a little too much for me. I mean, I want, like, I can't say that I want a dog for a partner because that would be no challenge. But yeah, I mean, I think just the ratio of joy to sorrow, joy to aggravation, maybe.
Yes.
That ratio of dogginess is what I would like in a human partner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, that when you see yourself, at the very least, you want to see the other person expending the same effort.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
especially my dog. Oh, she so wants to please. She does. She wants to, even when she can't and she doesn't, you could see she really wants to. It's important to her to please me.
So let's look at the characteristics of a potential soulmate. Let's start with the description rendered by that fifth house, Pisces. Now, these are the people that you'll find yourself drawn to. And that's in order to complete unfinished business from prior lives. That's what the fifth house symbolizes. The positive expression of fifth house Pisces is someone spiritual, creative, artistic, imaginative, sensitive, someone compassionate, generous, and kind. Someone who might need a lot of alone time to recharge because of their great sensitivity, but with whom sex can be transcendent. Sex with them can go beyond the physical. I thought you were getting cold sweats or something. You can look at one another and feel that you're seeing into one another's souls. Alternately, the shadow side of Pisces is someone who medicates their psychic sensitivity with substances, someone who seems just too sensitive to live in the world and can't cope with the demands of the material world. Shadow Pisces will hide their true feelings. They want no confrontation, so they will not want to bring up real issues that arise. Maybe they even retreat into physical or mental illness. Pisces' fifth house may or may not be who you end up with as a permanent partner. As I mentioned, fifth house relationships are here for you to complete karma with. But once you've done that, you can either separate or decide to progress to a more long-term situation. Now, let's look at what the message is from your house of marriage, the seventh house. What type of partner will you be drawn to? Jupiter is in the sign of Aries. Now, the shadow side of that combination was described to you in the Nodal story. The powerful, grandiose, reckless, angry, abusive king. The more evolved version of Jupiter in Aries is a big-hearted, good-humored, powerful, majestic person who is generous, adventurous, and supportive. Someone who encourages you to be as grand as you can be. They're funny. They laugh easily. Someone optimistic who'll restore your faith in life with their positive outlook. Now, Jupiter is regarded as royalty, generally referred to as a king or queen. Now, of course, in this case, we'll think of your Jupiter partner as more of a drag king. Now, in the sign of Aries, the warrior, we're talking about someone brave, direct, loyal, protective, and passionate, like a warrior guarding the integrity of the relationship. This is someone...
Yes, that's what I want.
Yes, a warrior guarding the integrity of the relationship, someone you can count on. Also, whenever we find Jupiter in our charts, we ask the question, How have I been underestimating myself? Whatever you can imagine having with a partner, your chart is telling you to think bigger. Expect much more from someone.
Yes, that is true. That's where I am right now.
Now let's find Venus in your chart. Now here it is in the third house of communication in the sign of Sagittarius. In the third house, this suggests that you want someone with whom you'll always be learning new things and having engaging conversation. A good communicator would be very important to you. Also, Venus in Sag doesn't want fluff conversation, although you love laughing. Venus in Sagittarius wants depth. You want someone who brings adventure and experiences that keep expanding your view of the world so that you'll have to keep rethinking your values and personal mission statement. Boredom is anathema to Sagittarius. Love for you needs to be an unending conversation and a continual adventure. Sag is the sign that thrives on experience and says yes, when more fragile souls might say, "Are you kidding?" So, for instance, while some less adventurous souls might place a high value on their 8 hours of sleep, you, on the other hand, would probably swoon if a new love interest called you in the middle of the night and said they'd be swinging by to pick you up in an hour to take you to a pop-up avant-garde museum. They tell you that there's a piece there that must be seen at a precise time. You have to see it just when the light of the full moon will be shining down on it in such a way as to create an optical illusion in which the people in the artwork appear to be of every ethnic and racial background all at once, and then appear to dance together.
Pretty good. Yeah, I would swoon.
Oh, and if you want to mention your own version, of course, I made that one up. But if you'd like to tell us your personalized one for any potential suitors, feel free.
Well, I thought you were going to say in the middle of the night and, you know, just have sex. I thought that was the swoony thing. Like, wake me up. You know, that's a swoon for me. Like, other people don't wake them up. It's not okay.
But wake you up.
But wake me up, yes.
Back to the sun in Cap in the fourth momentarily, in which your chart indicates a need for solitude. Taking time away from a partner may be scary because of the prior abandonment issues, but finding someone whom you can count on and trust will give you that feeling of safety so that you can relax into that solitude or go out into the world independently.
I don't know, but I've had a lot of solitude in my relationships, especially with Carol, because she, you know, I was the wife and I didn't have to work, you know, outside the home. And so I had a lot of time to myself.
Oh, right. It was built into the relationship.
It was built into the relationship. And that was a gift to me because time, more than anything, is the most important thing to me, to have time to do things I want and that I love, you know. So it was really a blessing in a way that I had, you know, so much of that in that relationship. That was, to me, it was what she contributed, you know, among other things. But
oh, you know, that's so interesting because now you might be facing a new challenge,
which is,
well, that what if it's very possible, right, that in your next relationship that the person may not be working full time, that there may not be that built-in separation, the built-in independence.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's true. I don't know if that would be a problem. because I've had lots of time in my lifetime to myself. So at this point, I'm looking for the last years of my life to be sort of more connected.
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily have so much free time. I don't think I need it, but you never know.
Now, earlier, I mentioned that this life, you're here to kiss a lot of frogs, to gain a lot of experience saying no to the many frogs you'll meet, not to insult those dates that don't seem right for you, only to say the Sagittarius habit of saying yes so often ensures that you will repeatedly choose the wrong people, at least briefly. That's just part of the process of finding someone compatible. But remember, part of your mission is to never underestimate yourself when choosing a partner. And you're here to get a lot of practice doing this by saying no to the people that don't suit you and learning to recognize the people that do. Now, I want to bring the moon back into the conversation. The moon is related to romance and family. With your moon in Leo, you want a shiny relationship. As I mentioned before, your Capricorn sun wants stability, but the Leo moon evokes some of the same images as Jupiter. It's the queen or king and commands attention. You want to be royalty when you are out with your partner in the public eye. But you also want to feel special at home. Leo doesn't like to come home and find their partner glued to a TV set, wearing jockey shorts, and eating potato chips all week. Leo wants to keep the bond new. Leo wants to always feel that sense of romance and appreciation we feel when we're first dating. Leo wants
that's why I divorced my husband after 4 years. Like, people ask me why, and I'd be like, he would come home and nod off on the couch. That was not okay.
Yes, Leo wants to always feel that sense of romance and appreciation we feel when we're first dating. Leo wants their partner coming to the door with the new poem or song they just wrote about you.
Should I be embarrassed to admit that, or no?
You should embrace it. Remember, when it comes to your relationship, you're supposed to think big. Wherever our Jupiter is in our chart, that's where we need to think big. And yours is in your house of marriage.
Okay.
So finally, I want to talk about your 3 planets in Libra in the first house. Again, now before I mention them in regard to how it affects your personal style in the world, how people view you on first meeting, but because the planets are all in the sign of Libra, the sign ruled by Venus, the god of love, we have to look at these planets as messages regarding your love life as well. The fact that they're all in your first house reaffirms that idea that you need to maintain a sense of independence and putting your needs first this life. And that you're never again to feel like you're in a relationship alone. You're here to learn to be a bit more selfish. Now, the message of Saturn is to take time alone within the relationship. The message of Neptune is not only to share a spiritual connection with someone else, or artistic, but to put your own intuition first. And Mars in Libra in that first house tells me that you want to fight for real peace in a relationship by hashing out the issues, not sweeping them under the rug.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I really feel like there's so many people that think if you say, hey, this thing is not okay with me, they think you're being picky, and I feel like, why not let people know what the issue is early on, before it happens 80 times and you're so fed up.
Yes, and that's more of your Pluto. Pluto wants to tell the truth. And it's true. It's strong in Librans and strong in Pisceans. that feel like it's impolite. It's starting trouble. But no, the trouble has already begun on the energetic level.
Yes. And I don't want to date people who don't want to tell me what's wrong either. I want to know early. I want to know so that I could assess whether or not I could meet those needs. And the people who don't do that, they feel like, oh, well, I don't tell you everything that's bothering me. You're just picky.
Right. And your response should be, yes, that's the problem that you don't tell me.
That is my response all the time. And I can't seem to find a person who is willing to do that.
But you will. You're meant
Thank
to. You're meant to. Your Jupiter is in the house of marriage. And again, there's the positive pole. What you're talking about when we talk about, you've got you have Neptune in Libra and that fifth house Pisces. Those combinations could result in the type of people that say, oh, get over it. I rise above it. There's no such thing as rising above it. There's only, they say in the 12-step program, the only way out is through. And that is so true for you. And true for me as well. And true, I think, for any healthy person, except who is so evolved that they're beyond normal emotions. And in that case, they don't need a partner. They're just descending right in.
Be single, those people.
Do you have any questions or comments before we move on to transits?
No, I think we've covered everything quite in detail.
So I took a little time to look up what's called your secondary progressions and solar arc directions. So let's take a look at what's coming up in the future, particularly as it regards your love life.
Well, you're going to tell me the future now?
I am. I'm going to tell you future opportunities. I'm going to tell you how things are moving in your chart, in your progressed chart, and what kinds of opportunities will come your way. That's all I can say about them. They'll come your way. I mean, you can shut yourself up in your house and not take advantage of any of them, but they are coming your way. Actually, it's so funny. I once went to a palm reader, years ago, shortly before I met Fran. And I asked about, do you see in my hand? Do you see a partner coming up? And she said, well, you can have a partner. Yes, a partner will be coming, but you can't stay in your house. You have to go out. And it wasn't true. Fran actually called me at home.
Yeah. I remember you calling me, telling me.
That's so funny. I didn't have to make a move. I could have stayed under the covers with the dogs. She called.
Nice. That's the way it should be.
So before I go ahead and say, if you stay in your house, you'll never meet her. That's not necessarily true.
Well, if I meet her, I'm not going to nitpick you. So don't worry about it.
Okay. And I want to mention publicly that if and when, I'm going to say when, because I feel confident it's a when you do meet your soulmate, marriage partner, that I will give you a composite reading.
Oh, wow. Okay.
As long as, especially, let's see if she's willing to do it on air. That would be the preference. So,
well, if I meet the person that I'm supposed to meet, she will be willing.
Makes sense.
Right. Yes.
Yes. She's grand and upfront and a warrior. So she wouldn't hide. Now, let's start with the solar arc sun. This entered your house of relationships in January 20th of 2021. So the spotlight, wherever we have the sun, the solar arc sun, that's where the spotlight is in your life. And the spotlight was on relationships. So I imagine there was some likely opportunity in the area of friendly or romantic partnerships at that time. Now, of course, the precise date is January 20th of 2021. when the sun aligned with the cusp of the house of partnership. But you can start to feel the influence several months before or after the precise conjunction.
Okay. I can't remember January 20th, 2021, so I have no clue.
Okay. The next important thing I see occurring in the house of marriage and partnership is the progressed moon hitting the cusp of that house on June 20th of 2024. So that's further confirmation that this will continue to be an area of focus in the not too distant future. That sun is going through your house of marriage for 30 years. So you don't have to worry about not having opportunity. There's the moon there and there's the sun.
June 20th, huh?
Yes, but again,
next year.
Yes, when it hits the cusp, that's the date I'm giving it you. But of course, you can't count on it being precise, but likely 6 months to a year before or after. That's the timeline, generally, when you can start to feel the effects of it moving into the next house.
I want it to be right as soon as you publish this reading, so you can take credit for it.
Sure. So that's further confirmation that this will continue to be an area of focus in the not too distant future. A time when your emotional attention, because the moon is your heart, your emotions, a time when your emotional attention will be on relationships, a time to ask yourself, what do I really want and need? Now, shortly after that progressed moon enters the 7th house, 3 months later, on September 27th of 2024, the moon hits the sun, signaling the start of a new life cycle, beginning in this house of marriage, a whole new start. And then, as it progresses through the house, it hits Jupiter 2 months later. I think I made reference to this early on in the conversation. 2 months later, it hits Jupiter, the planet of luck, opportunity, and expansion. So that would be 11/27/24.
Oh, can I write this down?
Now, coming up after that, we have the solar arc sun moving further into your house of partnership and marriage, and also conjoining Jupiter, the planet of luck and opportunity. The precise date of that conjunction is January 10th, 2027. Oh,
That's
so on
your
my
birthday.
Yeah, so on my birthday, you can call me up and tell me it's so.
So if I ignore all that stuff in 24, I still got another chance in 2027?
Well, this could be the description of something evolving.
Oh, okay. So I should go out on all of these days. I should make some kind of a social engagement.
Well,
on all of these dates.
Well, I don't know that you should make it, but I have a feeling that if you haven't yet met someone, certainly you'd be invited to something. There would be an opportunity. You wouldn't have to search too hard, but take the opportunity.
Oh, so all those singles events that I go to, I should not miss these dates.
Right. Take those opportunities.
All right.
So in case you've been fretting about not meeting anyone, the chart's story is that you're on the precipice of a period in which you will have a lot of opportunity in the realm of romance.
Okay.
Now, let's talk about your current lunar phase. You're in a period now in which you're winding down from the events of a previous cycle. It's a time when everything that has been built over the last 30 years is dissolving, and a time to let go of anything that's not serving you now. It's also a time of not knowing, of letting go. You don't yet know what the next cycle will bring. So fortunately, it's also a very psychic time in which you'll find impressions coming to you. Who do you want to be for the next 14 years? What will you be looking to build? So this is a time to go inward. Take Luna, your dog, for long walks. Stare at the moon. Ask your dreams. What do I want for the next phase of my life? This is a time to be silent and let the answers come. September of 2024 will mark the beginning of the next cycle. So you should find the path starting to become clearer at that time. More clues will make themselves available.
Okay. All right then. I'm down.
Any questions?
Will this person that I'm supposed to be meeting and falling in love with be everything that I want? Should I wait until it's everything?
Well, let's put it this way. Those characteristics that I mentioned, the higher manifestation of them, if you see enough of those characteristics, then that sounds like a good bet.
Okay. All right.
But remember, the message of your chart is to think big.
Okay. So when I meet people, I'm going to just say maybe.
Yes. Yeah, and don't forget, even if, let's say, this progression of the moon and the solar arc are around that 7th house. It has a couple of different phases. So for instance, and Jupiter is involved, which I said is the planet of luck and expansion. It's also possible, that during a Jupiter time, you think you're with the right person, but when the moon or the sun hits that Jupiter, that will be an opportunity to know that it's not. Sometimes Jupiter gives you the gift of saying, oh, this was not so after all, so that it clears the way for the right person.
Okay. All right. I will practice saying no.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
I'm good. No questions or comments. I like this reading. And maybe you might turn me into a believer.
And who knows? Maybe you'll meet someone on the basis of this advertisement.
I will send you a gift basket if that happens.
So, Denise, again, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure to read you, and I'm wishing you all the luck on your venture to find a suitable marital partner.
Well, thank you, Maxine. And I am very happy with my reading. And I thank you for taking all the time that you've taken.
You're very welcome. And thank you, everyone else who's tuned in. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.